Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. If you have a suggestion for Top 3, hit us up in all the different locations as usual, which now we have 4 locations: the poll, Twitter, Discord, or focusfirechat@gmail.com. All those different places you can drop us a note, drop us a line of just different ideas for us that you have that you want to know. You have that burning desire to know, what does Bluing and a special guest like? I don't know how I'm going to segue out of this, but this week we're going to discuss our top 3 favorite video game soundtracks, which I think we've kind of gone over once before, but I have a different list now because, tastes are ever evolving, and I don't know, Blue, I don't know how your list is doing compared to last time.
I don't even remember my list last time, so...
Hey, there we go.
I'll be honest, let's go with it's probably different. It might not
probably be, though. I mean, if Halo's on there, it's probably the same. But
I was about to say, yeah.
But this week's special guest on Top 3 is Mr. Cornholio from the Destiny Show podcast. If you have not seen or listened to that, please do. He's got some really cool stuff going there. But Cornholio, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on with you guys and to talk Destiny.
For sure. I'm going to throw you in the hot seat. You're going to go first for top 3. What is your number 3 gaming soundtrack?
Number 3? I'm going to have to say Metal Gear Solid.
Okay. 3. Why is that?
Because I think the music in Metal Gear Solid is some of the coolest. It has a very, how do I say this? Very mystical feel to it. Right. Very, very good soundtrack. If you guys have not heard it, so I think that would be my number 3, Metal Gear Solid.
Okay. I'm just thinking, I think I've not played that game, so I'm sitting here thinking, Metal Gear Solid, is it like a lot of rock tunes? Is it a lot of electronica? I've never listened to the soundtrack, so how would you describe it genre-wise as far as that goes?
I would say it has a very rock feel to it.
Okay.
And also there's a lot of strings, a lot of intense sounds that really make you feel the game.
Cool. Blue, number 3 for you, sir.
Skyrim.
Uh-huh.
It's just mostly because the Elder Scrolls series really, and actually Bethesda in general, now that I'm kind of thinking about it more, but the Elder Scrolls especially does a really good job with the immersion the immersion aspect of it. They've always done a really good job about kind of getting that feel. And the other nice thing about Skyrim is all of the kind of the offshoots, the covers, I guess you would call them. So Peter Hollins and Lindsey Sterling did one that was just amazing. I'm trying, and I just blanked on the lady's name who does, but she did all of the bar songs. And
the bards, all the bard music.
God, I feel so terrible because she does an amazing job with them. Makula, gosh, man, I'm gonna have to look them up. But she, the covers are actually even more really emotive again, because there's the sky, especially with Skyrim, you have that deep kind of almost chant that they do, and it's very, very unique in a way. But yeah, it's Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind. All of them have their very unique, their own style, I guess you would. Malika, thank you, Pens. Yeah, Malika is, and I believe she is from South America. I think is where she's kind of focused, or she is located. But she has done an amazing. I think she has done all of the bard songs from Skyrim, and maybe even some of them from Oblivion, if I remember correctly. But she has an amazing voice on that.
Nice. I just remember the different bard songs and just being able to sit down and hang out and listen to them. They have them up on the wiki.
Yeah, and if you read the lyrics for them, they're really, really actually interesting. There's some that are really funny, but which is part and parcel for Skyrim, or for the Elder Scrolls series. But they're also very telling about, they are actually actual bard songs. They are telling a story. They are, they're telling the history of the people and all that. I think it's great.
Fun fact: there's one bard song that you will not hear unless you complete the main campaign.
which I will not ever hear because my main file got bugged out on my console.
Oh
no.
that's too bad.
And I
the
adamantly...
Tale of Tongues is so pretty.
I think I've heard it, but I haven't heard it in game.
Okay.
But yeah, like that was my one bone to pick with Skyrim was I got caught in a glitch where you're not supposed to kill one of the characters, and you can get caught in like a loop where you accidentally can kill, like you basically get stuck in a catch-22 mission. And if you play them in the wrong order, it messes everything up, and I didn't realize that, and I played them in the wrong order, and I have like, you know, thousands of hours into this file, and I'm like, nope, just not going to finish this. I'll just keep doing side. I'll just go hunt down all the Thalmor. I'm equally happy doing that. So
there you go.
It's funny because I had a similar thing happen to me both in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, where I got to a point and then I got stuck and I couldn't quite get out. I couldn't get to an earlier save file, and I was like, I can't do this.
You get so invested in the particular line that you're like that story file that you played, and I'm like, I'm not doing this all over again. I made choices specifically.
I always make 2 files though. Like I
no.
make 2
like
files
I
in
always
Bethesda game specifically because of that. Like even if it's like hours and hours behind, I try to keep 2 files always active.
Right, and I usually do as well. But mine, it's a known bug, and it's like, I think they fixed it in one of the later patches, but it doesn't fix it retroactively, basically. But basically what happens is there's a mission that's like a quarter or halfway through the game that if you choose to do one way, you won't have any problems. But if you choose to do another way, it basically bugs out the rest of the mission because it asks you to kill a character that you have to then later interact with. And it was just, it's a Bethesda game, you know, it is what it is, but it doesn't like lessen my enjoyment of the series at all.
Oh,
but
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I'm going to take us into a totally different RPG. You ready for this? My number 3 game soundtracks is actually something I'm listening to right now. It is Stardew Valley's soundtrack. And the reason why is because when I hear that soundtrack, I don't actually play the game with the audio, with the music on. My wife does. So when I hear that soundtrack, I know that she's playing a video game, which makes me incredibly happy. So Stardew Valley soundtrack is my number 3. It's actually really soothing. It reminds me of Minecraft. Like the Minecraft soundtrack is very relaxing, and instead of just like tones and stuff like that Minecraft does, it actually has a little bit more melody involved with it, which is a lot of fun, and it sounds like it could be played in a spa and fit right in, so it's really relaxing. But yeah, that's my number 3, something a little bit more sentimental in that respects. But that takes us to number 2. Cornholio, you are up, sir.
Okay, so this one is kind of tough for me because I want to say Destiny 2, because Destiny 2 had excellent music. If I say Destiny 2 is my second favorite, you guys probably could guess what my first favorite is. But it's going to have to be between the Mario music, and Destiny 2. Because I think Destiny has some of the most epic music, and I can just zone out and listen to any track. And it's kind of become a tradition for us to like purchase the soundtrack right before the new expansion hits, and usually they would have it up on the Bungie store the night before, so we would always just listen to the music and get a feel for what we're going to be playing, and it just sets the mood so perfectly.
Oh yeah, I've gone through to, especially the initial soundtrack for Destiny 2, I've listened to a lot myself. Did a little bit of music lore on good music. Blue, number 2.
My number 2 is actually Destiny Rise of Iron. Because as much as I did not like playing that particular expansion, and I didn't play that particular expansion, the music was really well done. And that was one of the first times that I really got caught up in listening to Destiny music, because kind of like you, Green, I don't tend to play games with music on. I usually play my own music in the background because that's the way I kind of operate. If I'm even playing music, honestly, I often will play without any sound at all, mostly because I'm either doing something else that requires my audio to be used, or I just have been doing something else and I forgot to turn it back on.
We know.
Yeah,
like the Thorn mission, and I'm just
usually I'm
glad
podcasting. I'm podcasting during the same time. There's things.
Cornholio, have you heard about this? Like, he will do some of the hardest missions with teammates, with some of the clan, while we're podcasting. Like, he did the Savathun Song Strike.
I did the Thorn Strike, the Last Word mission.
Oh my god!
And what was the other one we did?
Recording live. You were thinking about doing not Whisper, but 0 Hour. But I told you to.
No,
just
0
stop.
Hour. 0 Hour. I tried, and I was like, "Yeah, no, that's not going to happen." No, Pins. Pins and Uni and I did the Wish Ender. That's the one we did last.
Pins and Uni, you guys are saints.
They're
for
enablers.
Putting up with him. Oh my god,
they're enablers.
I can't even imagine trying to
the Thorn Strike was the Thorn Strike was the worst one because it was it was brutally punishing if you didn't pay attention.
Oh my god. Mm-hmm.
We've gotten really good. We've gotten
came up and ran at you.
Yeah. Well, and that was actually the problem was the surprise thrall. We're always I'm like, if you don't have audio, it's really hard. But yeah, we've gotten really good at emote conversations. So yeah. But yeah, so I don't actually normally listen to I don't listen to music while I'm playing a game. If I'm not if it's an RPG, I will listen because again, kind of like that goes back to the Bethesda. It's because usually the music that's playing is indicative of what's happening. So I actually use the music as a trigger to know what's going on.
Hey, there's a bear about to attack you.
Yeah, bears. But then but with games with Destiny, Halo, I've been playing Wolfenstein because it's on Game Pass now, Doom, all those first person shooter games, they don't tend to use music in the same fashion as RPGs, so I don't really listen to the soundtracks. So I have all the soundtracks from Destiny, and when I got the Rise of Iron soundtrack, it was really good. I just really liked the music, which is kind of funny because I could not stand the mechanics.
Yeah, is a thing. So we're gonna have a 3-way Destiny at the number 2 slot
probably
because
probably.
my number 2 is not actually a soundtrack per se. It's a single that came out.
Cabal
It's the
Stomp?
Whisper. No, although I really do like that song. That song is really well done. If you know rhythmically what they're doing, that's really well done. But the Whisper mission, that music, the electronic music for that mission, that is actually one I will turn on in game if I run it. Because I love that music. Well, I like electronic music. I like the way that they incorporated a lot of the high tones and low with everything going on. That you talked about how RPGs kind of are indicative of what's happening. Whisper kind of almost has that feel to it. There's audio cues in Destiny are the end of a Crucible match, you have the audio cue. The end of a Gambit match, you have an audio cue. Not a whole lot of other ones just built into the game normally because you're not going to hear an audio cue every time a thrall comes around the corner. That's just not what's going to happen. But the Whisper mission has some really brilliant building moments as well as this ethereal, mysterious area that not only speaks of the lightness of the Vex, but the deepness of the dark that you're dealing with Zol, which I really, really love. That's one I actually have downloaded on Spotify. So, Whisper of the Worm single, for me, is my number 2. Brings us to our number 1s. Cornholio.
Okay, that's going to be really easy for me. I'm going to say Destiny. The entire soundtrack was so magical and so epic. And you had so many different styles of tracks. You had the Vex, and then you had my favorite track, Sepix Prime, which is actually also my favorite strike in the game. And that specific song gave me kind of that Trent Reznor feel. Mm-hmm. Very, very cool, very rocky, and I really enjoyed that whole strike. The entire final boss encounter was just so awesome and epic, and the way that the music came together with the entire encounter was just so good.
Just everything from Marty and the team who has also helped. There's been some really good stuff put out. A lot of diversity, not just the same. Lou, number 1 user.
The original Halo.
Ooh.
Mostly because, again, the emotional connection that I have to that, but also because it was probably one of the first times that I was introduced to a video game soundtrack that incorporated something that's not normally in video game soundtracks, which is the Benedictine chants. And it was done very well, and it was just it's just, yeah, it's like the whole thing of the emotional connection, the history there. It just, yeah, for me, that's easily the number one thing. It's honestly even just the single track for the menu, that opening track for Halo, the original Halo, is just, it's super powerful. From an emotional standpoint, it brings back tons of memories for those of us who, grew up playing that. And then also it just is very, very telling. Like, everyone hears it and they immediately know what game it is. Like, it's something that's just, Halo has done a ton for the first person shooter space. And that's just another thing that is just very distinctly unique to that particular game series.
That's actually my one major regret, is not having a guy group. I have the sheet music for that opening.
Oh, yeah?
I have sheet music for it. Because people have transcribed that many times over. You can find it at Music Notes easily. But it's Gregorian chant, which is own. Yeah. Which is another thing. Like, if you're a music major in college and you want to freak out your music history teacher, play him the Halo soundtrack, because it is very similar to the Gregorian style. There's very few differences in it, because the Gregorian style really is a singular line, whereas there are some harmonies and stuff going on within the Halo soundtrack, but it is very, very interesting as far as the musical history breakdown of it. But that's just me nerding out a way. But yes, I wish I would have had a guy group that could pull that off, but high school boys aren't going to be able to pull off the bass very easily.
You have to have some powerful bass to do that, to do it justice, at least.
At least the schools that I taught in, much smaller. So I feel like I'm going to really let everybody down with because it's not Bungie related at all. My number one soundtrack that I love to listen to is actually not a soundtrack that's available. It is a tube track from a video game. It's Trials Evolution, an old BMX bike game. So the Trials Evolution soundtrack had elements of just... It reminds me a lot of Rocket League, but better music than Rocket League has. Like, I love the Rocket League soundtrack as well, but Trials Evolution just has a lot of memories of me learning how to rage without throwing a controller, because you had to be so exacting in a lot of the things that you were doing if you were trying to pass certain maps. But the soundtrack was always really, really interesting, fun. Good running music, nice pacing music. There's not a single standout track on that one, though, unfortunately. Did you guys have any and also kind of things? Like, you almost put it on your list, but not quite?
I kind of do,
didn't.
actually.
I did not, so I'll let Cornholio, take that one.
Go for it.
Okay, so there was a soundtrack that was first leaked and later was released by Bungie called Music of the Spheres. And it was the prequel to the original Destiny, and I think that music was so good. It was so awesome.
They have released it actually now. It's been released on vinyl. It's really hard to get a hold of, but it's out on vinyl, and I believe I know where to get a hold of digital tracks, but I don't know.
I was about to say, but the digital
released officially.
I was about to say, I don't think the digitals are official, correct?
I think you can get the digital if you bought the vinyl.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because I've kind of tried to keep an eye to see if they're going to release a digital version, because I don't care about vinyl, which I know might be a triggering statement for some people out there, but I don't have a record player, so I'm like, all right, whatever. But yeah.
That was totally my excuse for not buying it, because I thought about it, but it was like $100 plus another like $20 between tax and shipping, and I was like, is it really worth it? I mean, I kind of already have a version of it downloaded that came out before they officially released it, so it was a toss-up. But if they ever come out with a digital copy of it, I'd definitely purchase it, because I think the music was really epic, and it was a real treat to listen to. It was really fun.
It's really interesting to do a side-by-side playthrough of the Music of the Spheres and the original Destiny soundtrack, because you find the moments that were carried over into the actual game. It's kind of fun. That thing is its own can of worms. And I think we should start moving up top 3. Thank you guys for joining us this week. Next week we are doing top 3, or not next week. It's a couple weeks from now, because next week is Guardian Con.
Correct.
Or technically this week that we're in is Guardian Con.
Yeah.
And the week after that is Extra Lore when we're doing this next top 3, correct?
Correct.
So that would be July 12th. And we are doing top 3 video game stories, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments. There's a lot of sad moments. It might be a sad story. It might be a sad evening.
I'm trying to restrict myself on that one, because I'm going to try to do like overall stories instead of moments, because geez, if I did moments, I would I mean, I don't think we would be here for like 4 hours probably between the two of us.
The final freaking Halo mission and where's
Halo
Cortana?
4? Yeah. Yeah. Spoilers, that one's going to be probably on there.
It's like 10 years old. Anyway,
it doesn't matter. No. Spoilers for next week.
Top 3. Yeah.
Next episode.
Yeah. All right. Man, that list is going to be hard to put together. Thank you, Cornholio, for joining us for this one. We will see you definitely episode coming up. Thank you guys for listening. As always, have a wonderful week. And remember, everybody loves a list.